Now that we have our triangle congruence conjectures in place, one of the things that's a big part of geometry are these things called proofs. Now, what proofs are in a very simple term, is it's just a really organized argument. And the basic rule for proofs, whether they're a two-column proof or a flowchart proof, we're going to be doing the flowchart proofs because I think they're a little easier to see, is every time you make a statement, you have to back it up with some sort of rule or definition or explanation as to where you got that information. It's just a really organized argument. And they look like this. They look like what we have here on the screen, where you've got given information, and since these are congruent statements, I really should have the segments over the top. And what we've got some information given to us, and we're trying to prove the triangle ARC is congruent to ERC. And we want to make a really neat, organized argument for to prove that those two triangles are congruent. So we know what we're trying to prove, and we're not questioning whether they are or whether they aren't. We just have to make the argument for it. So here's how it goes, and the method we're going to use is called a flowchart proof. And it doesn't matter whether we start with what kind of proof, whether it's a flowchart or a two-column proof. Always start with the given information. So here's one statement we can make, that segment AR is congruent to segment RE. Now, how did we know this? What did we do? Well, we didn't do anything. We simply read it. So because we were told that angle AR, side AR is congruent to side RE. So that's a given information. The reason is going to go right below it. So what we have now is we've got one box. Each box contains a statement and a reason. And I'm going to put the marks on here as I can. What's the other statement that we were given? Well, we were given that AC is congruent to EC. Again, the reason we knew that, the reason we can work that to be, we can work with under the assumption that's true, is we were told that. That's given information. So anytime you have information given to you, which you have to on some level, you've got to be given some, right? We have this statement here. So we're trying to prove that these two triangles are congruent. So we're trying to get to side, 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 angle, side, angle, side, angle, or angle, angle, side, or hypotenuse leg, but we're pretty certain that's not hypotenuse leg. We don't know anything about that being a right triangle. Well, as I'm looking at this based on the given, I'm looking at this and saying, can I make either of these work? Because I've got two sides marked in each triangle. Can I get to either side, 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 or side, angle, side? Well, I don't see anything here based on what we've got, the information that we have, either in the given or in the picture, that would allow us to say anything about angles. Maybe at some future point in the class we will, but for right now I don't think we can. So we're going to say, well, is there any way we can get any statement about this side here? Well, we can actually, because if we look at this, we look at these two triangles, RC is in both triangles. RC is a side in both triangles. So we can make that statement. We know that RC is congruent to RC. How come? It's the same segment. In real math terms, that would be called the reflexive property. But well, we're just we're happy calling it the same segment. Now, just for the fun of it, I'll put 3 marks on here, which I generally don't do because there's nothing to pair it up with. But now we've got this statement here. We've got this statement, and this statement. And they all are going to allow us to make the statement here that triangle ARC is congruent to triangle ERC. And why can we say that? Because of side, side, side. We take what we're given. We take what we can figure out on our own and put all of these in each statement, and each reason gets its own box. And once we've got enough to prove what we're looking for, all of those kind of flow into this statement here that proves triangle ARC is congruent to ERC. Now, I want you to know that proof work is something that has been tricky for some in the past. So give yourself some time and practice to get to these. We're going to do some delta math in a little bit after we try another one. But give yourself the time to do this well. And it does take a little bit of getting used to, but it's not that bad once you get the hang of it. Now, once we're going to go to the next screen in just a second, and we're going to try another one, and we're going to walk through that one in just a sec. So here's another one that we can be trying. Now, if you want to try to do this one on your own, feel free, hit pause right now, see if you can't work your way through it. I'm going to go through it. I'm going to pause momentarily myself, and then so if you want to pause it and try your own. If not, just follow along. So we're trying to prove that the triangle MSE is congruent to OSU, which are these two triangles on the side. Be careful when you've got multiple triangles in here in a picture like we do here. That can get a little tricky and might send you down the wrong path as you're trying to determine what you should be doing. So I'm looking at this and saying, okay, well, I've got some given information here. It's not very neatly written, but I know that actually this will help. I know that SE is congruent to SU. SE is congruent to SU. And why do I know that? That's given information. Put it in a box. Whole thing. Boom. So I've used one bit of given information. I'm also told something about angle E being congruent to angle U. I'll put those marks in too, because I can. A little small. That's given information. Now, as I'm looking at this, and I'm trying to make an organized argument to prove that those two triangles are congruent, I'm trying to get to one of these statements. I'm going to try to organize my argument so I can look at this and take what I've been given and either get to one of these congruence conjectures, all of which guarantee congruence between two triangles. And as I'm collecting information, I can start eliminating some. I've got a statement. I was given a statement about an angle. I'm going to take out side, side, side. I'm going to hold off on that one for now, because that one might not help me, right? Because I've got information about an angle. It's probably going to be that I need it and that I use it. So maybe we won't be using side, side, side. And then the third one, as it was in the last one, we kind of have to figure out on our own. So we're looking at this and saying, okay, well, angle 1 and angle 2, they just made those easier to label by numbering them. I know that angle 1 is congruent to angle 2. Well, how do I know that? Well, they're vertical angles. One thing about proofs is they do often call upon previously learned content. We can't lose sight of all that good stuff, right? So now, and I can put, and it's going to be a little messy here, but I'm going to put congruence marks here and here. So now I'm looking at this little triangle on the right and this little triangle on the left, MSE, OSU. Are they congruent? Well, I've got a statement about sides and two statements about angles. I'm probably going to be in one of these here. And as we talked about in class, those are kind of interchangeable, but it's probably not a bad habit to look at this and say, well, based on what I have information for, based on what I have determined, I now am going to say that MSE is congruent to OSU. And the reason is side angle, or angle, side, angle. Angle, side, angle. So what a proof is an organized argument where you take the information that you're given and the information you can figure out by following the rules and properties that we've covered before to prove a statement, not to determine if it actually is true. They're basically saying, yes, they are congruent. Give me the reason why we can assume they're congruent. Again, these are tricky and these are going to take some practice, so take the time to do the practice that you have offered. Please let me know if you have any questions. I hope this helped.